nowhere. I mean, actually, specifically to an event called Nowhere. It's a regional, the European Regional Burning Man event, and it happens in the desert in Spain. So I'd been to Burning Man a few times, and I was going to Europe for as yet to be determined period of time, and I thought, this seems like a good idea. I'll go nowhere. So I got a ticket, didn't have it with me. I bought it online, but that's okay. I didn't know anyone. I got introduced to a friend of a friend. So I had names. I had two names. I had Helen and Dougal, who were in charge of a theme camp called the Burrow. So I had a place to be, but I also didn't have any stuff. I didn't have any costumes. I didn't have any food, any water. I was completely the opposite of radically self-reliant, which actually was really the thing that bugged me the most at this point in the journey. So I had nothing. No stuff. I didn't know anyone, and I was headed nowhere. So I looked at the website, and this is a few years ago before we all had maps and our cell phones in our pockets. So I looked at the website, and I saw that I needed to leave the city of Zaragoza, which is a relatively large Spanish city, and take the train to Cerniena, which is a relatively small Spanish town. And then from there, they had some arrangement with a taxi company, and I thought, it can't be that hard to find the taxi company in this small town, so I'll figure it out when I get there. So you now know everything that I knew when I was leaving Zaragoza on that train. And as the sun is setting and it's getting dark and I'm realizing I'm going to get there after dark, should be interesting. And I'm thinking about the fact that I don't really know anyone, but that's okay, I'll be fine. Maybe I'll run into some people on the way. And the train is getting emptier and emptier, and we're getting further and further into the countryside, and I'm now starting to think, perhaps I should have thought this through just a little bit more. At which point, a young woman on the train comes up to me. This girl, she's kind of got like green-tinged, punky hair, and she sees my necklace, my Burning Man necklace, and she says, "Oh, are you going to the Nowhere?" "Yes, I am." She says, "Great, let's go together." I said, "Awesome, do you know how to get there?" She says, "No." Okay, at least now we're together. So, at this point, I kind of said to her, "Well, what do you mean you don't know how to, like, how are you gonna get there?" She says, "Oh, I was just gonna walk." So turns out she's hitchhiked from Finland. She's Dutch. She's pretty fucking hardcore. I was like, all right, we're not gonna walk. I do know it's about 12 kilometers from Cerniena and about 15 kilometers from the next nearest, even smaller town, and it's dark. So it sounds like a good idea, but no. We'll figure this out. We'll figure this out. So we get to Cerniena and we get off the train. Not so much a station as it is a van that's waiting to take us into the town. So, and we're the only two who get off, so this is like extra sketchy. So we get off and we get into this van and it takes us into the town. Cerniena is like one gas station, one supermarket, and one hotel/bar. So we get dropped off at the hotel/bar. At which point I feel it's important to point out neither she nor I speaks very much Spanish. So we go into this bar trying to figure out where we're going in a few words, a few gestures. Festival, desert, los Monegros, por favor. And finally someone goes, "Hippie festival! Hippie festival! Yeah, see, hippie festival. Okay, yes, we'll take it. That's got to be the one, right?" So they get us the taxi driver, the one taxi driver with the one taxi, who of course has no idea what we're talking about, but progress, right? So we negotiate with him that we're gonna pay him like 40 euros, get in the taxi, and he's gonna hopefully find our way to this location in the middle of the desert in the middle of the night. So we get into the taxi and we drive about 12 kilometers outside of Cerniena and continue another 15 kilometers or so into the next, even smaller town, which is basically like a street. So we pull over on the street and he goes into, the taxi driver gets out and goes into what I can only assume is a bar through a beaded curtain, not even a door. And he just goes through the beaded curtain and we see him having a drink and animatedly chit-chatting with some other people. We're like, what's happening? Where are we? What are we doing? Oh, we can't like get out at this point. We're kind of stuck in this situation. So after a few minutes of heated discussion, he comes back out, gets to the taxi, explains to us, oh, these people he was just talking to, they live nearby. They know where we're going, so we're going to follow them. So they come out behind him and they get into their car and we get back in the taxi and drive off into the night back the way we came, following this van into the darkness. Sure enough, Now, there was a little sign, like, you know, like that big, that maybe said, well, nowhere, with a little arrow and a little Burning Man logo. I never would have seen this in a million years, even in the daytime, but it was there. So we turned off the road, and very shortly we're like off-roading in this sedan taxi. And we're like bumping along. He's getting grumpier and grumpier because his car is clearly not intended to off-road. And some muttering about more money, and we're like, oh crap. Like, we are really at this moment so far in this, we don't know where we're going. We are in a country where neither one of us speaks the language. We just met like 2 hours earlier. We have nothing. We are going nowhere. This is ridiculous. And there's this moment when we turn around a corner, and I've now done this in the daylight, and this is a hairy corner. And even in the darkness, we could see the sky just open up and the ground just drop out in front of us, and the stars filling the sky. And just over here is a dome, and another dome, and some blinky lights, and some rope lights, and we just went, that's it, that's it, that's it, that's where we're going, yeah! We found it, and it didn't look like much, but we knew exactly what it was. And after a few more ridiculously harrowing curves, he drops us off at the gates to nowhere, which are these like crocodile arm gate things, and he puffs our bags into the dust and leaves us there. And we have this final moment of anxiety of, what am I doing? I don't know anyone. I don't know, I don't have anything. I'm unprepared, I am unconnected. And what I didn't know is that this group of people who had been there for days building their central shade structure, called the Middle of Nowhere, of course, Middle of Nowhere had blown down earlier that day after 3 days of building it. So what do? They get absolutely ripped, totally wasted, party their faces off, and get ready to do it again the next day. And that is the energy that we walked into that night, this destruction and celebration and high energy. And I walked timidly into that space and said, does anybody know Dougal or Helen or the Borough? And immediately I was received with open arms. I was given a hug. I was given a, oh my gosh, we're so glad you're here. I had a beer in my hand and a smile on my face, and I was exactly where I was supposed to be.